Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well, out and about, stuck behind a white van of course. Today I'm riding once again the brand new for 2022 Suzuki GSXS S1000GT, bit of a tongue twister that. I've had the bike for about a week, I've ridden it as much as I can, and in this video I'm going to bring you the pros and cons about the bike, the things that I like about it and the things that I don't like. And I must say, in the main, it is a good bike, but there are a few things about it that would irritate me if it was mine. So if you're interested in this machine, stick around and stay tuned, and I'll give you my lessons learned.
So normally in these sort of more in-depth reviews, what I do is I bring you me riding in all sorts of conditions on different roads at night, in the rain and all that sort of thing. However, I've only actually had this bike for about a week, as I say, about 7 days I've been riding this, and I've ridden it as much as I possibly can in that time. I've done a few hundred miles on it, and in that time I think I've learned some lessons about it, a few niggles, plus some things that I really like about the bike, some stuff that you wouldn't necessarily pick up if you just had, say, a 1 hour test ride. So to start with, let's go through the cons, let's go through those little niggles, the things that I don't like about the bike. Right, the first thing about this bike that I found a little bit irksome, particularly as a UK rider, somebody who rides all year round, including in the winter when it's very cold, is that this bike doesn't come with heated grips as standard. I think a touring bike should come with heated grips as standard. You can get them as an option, but that's something that's annoyed me about this bike, especially as I'm recording this at the back end of February. It's been cold out there and I've suffered with cold hands, so let's get some heated grips as standard next time.
Now for me, one of the most important things about touring bikes is you know, what they like on long distances, boring roads when you're getting to wherever you're going. So of course, weather protection very important, and this scores well in your lower body because it's got this big fairing area, but this screen I don't find very good. I'm not a very tall chap, but I'm finding wind hitting me from the chest above into the head. It's clean air, it's not turbulent, so it's not a big deal, but I just think for a touring bike they haven't quite paid enough attention to wind protection off that screen. I don't know if there is a touring screen available. I'm sure there'll be an aftermarket one, but certainly that's something I'll buy quite soon. So that's another for the thumbs down list. The windscreen, although it looks big, it's non-adjustable, and it chucks the air sort of mid-torso. Yeah, not good that.
From a practical point of view, the bike doesn't come with a centre stand, which means, of course, that when you want to lube the chain, you're going to have to wheel the bike around. It's quite heavy to do that, or you're going to have to get an ABBA stand or paddock stands or whatever to get the back wheel up so you can lube the chain. So no centre stand. I don't actually know if that's an option or not, but again, on a bike like this, I would like to see a centre stand as standard. Now, it may be sad, but for me, something that's very important when you buy a brand new bike is how the bike looks. And for me, the GT just doesn't look quite right. The bike generally is quite handsome, particularly from the side, but there's something about this front end that doesn't quite work for me. I don't know, I think the snout's just a bit too long or something. Maybe it's just trying a bit too hard, but for me personally, and it is just a personal viewpoint, I don't like the looks of the bike very much. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but touring bikes are often used for touring, aren't they? And that often means, again, touring two up. A bike like this, nice and big, very capable, big, powerful engine, great for riding with the passenger as well, taking your wife on a holiday or something like that, you might think. However, the pillion accommodation on this, I think, is particularly poor. The seat itself is quite small, just a tiny pad compared to the big, comfortable pad that the rider gets. And then the grip handles, or the grab handles, being right at the back here, means that your poor pillion rider is going to have their arms at the back all the time to hold on, and I wouldn't fancy riding on there myself. I've had a chat to Mrs. Fly about it and whether she'd like to ride on the back of this, and she said no way. So for a touring bike to have poor pillion accommodation, I think that's a bit of a thumbs down as well. All right, another whinge down the back end of the bike once again is the lack of a top box as standard. Now, the bike comes with these panniers, which I find a little bit fiddly, but they're fair enough. They're fairly sort of standard panniers. But because of the way the back is here, look, it's got no rack or anything, and Suzuki don't actually supply an OEM top box for this. I'm sure there will be aftermarket top boxes available, but at the moment, I can't find any top boxes for this. And again, that's not only a boo-boo for if you want a passenger to maybe lean back on it, but of course, again, if you're touring, particularly two up, you may not have enough room with just the panniers and no top box. So another thumbs down for the touring credentials of a touring bike.
Alright, so this is something else about the bike that I'm not too keen on, and that is when you're in normal running mode, you've got this single headlight on. I quite like this V-shaped bit, the running light, but the fact you've only got that one headlight on when you're riding normally just annoys me slightly. It looks so much better with both. Of course, both come on when you put it on full beam, but with just the one headlight, you're going to have smart Alex saying, "Oh mate, your headlight's gone," so that's something not too keen on.
Cool, blimey, what a whinger. That's enough for the negatives list then. There's loads of things about this bike that I actually love. Let's get on to the positive things about the bike.
One of the things I absolutely love about the GSXS S1000GT is its superb 4-cylinder engine. Talked about it a lot before on various videos because it's derived from the old GSXR 1000 K5 unit engine of 17 years ago. But just because it's old doesn't mean to say it's not a goodie. Of course, it's not the same engine as it was 17 years ago. It's been updated and upgraded, but that's where its basic architecture comes from. And the beauty of it is that at any speed, here I am at 20 miles an hour in third gear, it's as smooth as you like. And then of course when you wind it up as well, it howls, it makes a great sound, it goes fast with its 150 brake horsepower, but it is as smooth as you like. And that for me is one of the definitely the best things about the GT. That smooth 4-cylinder engine is an absolute peach.
Alright, a quickie on the pros list, the quick shifter on this bike. I absolutely love this thing. It's so smooth, it works both up and down. It's a beautiful quick shifter, definite plus on this bike. So should we talk pricing on this bike then? Because I think that's something that this scores well on, and it's made it onto my positive list. This bike itself comes in at $11,599 for a brand new 2022 bike. If you compare that against some of its competitors, I suppose the one that comes up most often is the Kawasaki Ninja S1000. It's just the 1000SX, isn't it, these days? Their big touring bike. I think arguably the Kawasaki looks better than this, but it comes in a little bit cheaper, the Kawasaki. And when I looked on the web this morning, that was $11,449. So a little bit cheaper than this one, but as I say, that is an older design bike. Then when you look at some of the other competitors, the Honda NT1100, another new bike for the 2022 model year. Haven't seen that one yet. Looks, again, arguably, you know, split opinions somewhat. As I say, I haven't seen that one in the flesh, hope to get it in soon. But that bike comes in a little bit more expensive than the Suzuki. The NT1100 is $11,999. And then the last one to look at, I guess, would be the Yamaha Tracer 9GT, which is the sort of top of the range Tracer touring bike, if you like. That one comes in quite a bit more expensive at $12,300. But then again, the Tracer 9GT is quite a bit more sophisticated, particularly in terms of electronics. So I think from a pricing point of view, the Suzuki GT comes in about right.
Another thing on very much on my pros list of the GT is just the handling on this bike. For a big tourer, they've got this sorted just perfectly. These big sweepy corners. It's one of these bikes I refer to as set and forget. When you corner on it, number one, it feels lovely and stable, and it just stays set where you've left it. So yeah, stability in the corners is something I very much like about the GT.
Massive plus for me on this bike is the comfort that it offers. The seat for the rider on here is really, really comfortable. Nice and wide, nice and padded. The riding position itself, you're nice and upright. The handlebars aren't too low. You're not putting any weight on your wrists. It's a really, really comfortable place to be. You can do mile after mile on this in great comfort. So that is a very important plus for me. Something you'd expect of a accomplished touring bike, which this is. But yeah, the comfort on this bike really does score well for me. Okay then, so to the last thing on my positives list that really scores for me on this bike, and that is the balance that they've got with the electronics on the machine. It's got exactly the electronics you want and no more besides. Number one, it's got this great TFT, which I think is the best TFT we've yet seen on a Suzuki. Really clear, really nice, 6.5 inches wide TFT. Got everything you need there, including a proper fuel gauge, I'm glad to say. And then as far as the electronics concerned, it's got riding modes, it's got ABS, it's got traction control, and that's pretty much it. They're not lean angle sensitive, they're not the most up-to-date, it hasn't got an IME on it, but those are the things that you need for safety. It's got them and nothing else, so you can set them up and off you go. You're not fiddling around with anti-wheelie and all that other stuff. So yeah, the electronics package on this for me is very much something to go on the positives list.
So there we have it. That's the lessons I've learned during the relatively short time I've had the bike. As I say, I've had it about a week, so not quite as in-depth a review as perhaps I'd like to have done, but long enough to get a feel for the bike. And overall, I do love it. It's definitely a contender. It's one of the best Suzukis I've ridden for a long time. Lovely TFT, beautifully comfortable. This engine, okay, it may have its origins in an old engine, but it's a beautiful engine and a really nice touring machine. Particularly one up, that's what I would say. With things like the lack of top box, the small pillion accommodation, I'm not sure it would be my first choice if I was going touring two up, but certainly if I was going away on my holidays on my own, then this would definitely be one to consider. The looks possibly not to my taste, but that's entirely a subjective thing. But definitely worth looking at this up against the S1000SX from Kawasaki, the new Honda NT1100, and of course the Yamaha Tracer 9 if you're in this market. Huge thanks to Suzuki UK for lending me the bike, and of course to you for watching. If you've not been to my channel before, do consider subscribing. It would be great to have you along next time. Alright, until then, this has been the Mr. Fly. Cheerio. Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Out and about today, behind a white van of course, on the GSX GSXS. Let's do that all again.
All right, my first little niggle about the bike. It is a touring bike, and I'm here in the UK, so it irks me. Let's do it again. I would argue and say that the Kawasaki actually looks a little bit better, but that's entirely a personal preference. Oh, let's do it again. Massive positive on this bike, for me at least, is the comfort that this bike offers. The seat on here, at least for the passenger, let's do it again.